Let me check if the video is live. I'm just checking if the video is live. If it is live, then we can get started. I'm just double checking on my mobile if the video is live. Hang on for a second. Okay, we are live. Let me get started. Welcome to Tech Primers. In this particular session, we are going to see what is reactive programming, and we are going to see an example of reactive programming and how to start writing reactive code using RxJava. So if you had seen my previous video on what is reactive programming, this is going to be a repetitive, the initial 5 minutes. I'm just going to cover up what is reactive programming, and then we can get started with the code. So reactive programming is the type of programming where you program for asynchronous data streams. So you basically program with a set of events which are ordered in time. So as I said before, time is a set of streams, tweets a set of streams. The data which is going to change with respect to time is going to be a stream. And using reactive programming, we are going to process them in the form of asynchronous data streams. Okay, so RxJava is an functional reactive programming implementation which was created by Netflix. So Netflix has created this library for composing the asynchronous and event-based programs using the observable sequences. So if you see the GitHub link for the RxJava, so they have defined what is RxJava. So RxJava, if you see, is a lightweight Java virtual machine implementation of the reactive extension. So reactive X is the original concept of how we write reactive programs, and there are lots of different libraries which have been written based on this reactive extensions, and RxJava is just one implementation of that particular extension. So in this particular example, we are going to see how RxJava is used for reactive programming. If you see here, what Netflix says is RxJava is a polyglot implementation. It supports Java 6 or higher, and it's a JVM based, and it also supports in the JVM based languages such as Groovy, Clojure, JRuby, Kotlin, and Scala. So we are going to use the Java implementation in this particular example. Also, there is a reactive manifesto based on which the reactive systems are created. So if you go to this particular website, so you can see all the different properties or the behavior for the reactive systems. So the major properties would be the responsiveness of the application, the resiliency of the application, the elasticity of the application, and finally the message driven architecture for the application. And in case of reactive systems, it's all going to be asynchronous messages. And what we are going to do is we are going to act upon the events. So these are the message driven stuff. So based on the events, we are going to handle those events and how to process them. That's what we are going to see. So let's start with the Spring Initializer. So I can go ahead and create a new project. So I'm going to create Tech Primers dot reactive, and I'm going to say this is reactive example 1. Okay. So the only thing which we need is the web. We can add the reactive RxJava implementation later. So I'm going to generate this particular project. Okay, it's just asking me where to save. So I'm going to save it under this guy. Okay, so I have already opened this. Okay, let me unzip this. So I've opened IntelliJ already. We can open this particular project in IntelliJ. So let me open this. Okay. So what we have done is we have just added only the web as a dependency, nothing else we have added. So what we are going to do is we are going to add the Rx core implementation form dependency. So let's go to the latest version. So I'm going to take 0.20.7. So this is the Rx core Java dependency. I'm just taking this particular dependency I'm going to add to our project. So let's go to the POM. As you see here, there are no other dependencies except the starter web which we added. So I'm going to add the Netflix dependency of RxJava. Okay, so let this import. Also, in this particular example, what we are going to do is we are going to get the stock information using the Yahoo Finance API. Okay, so we are going to get the information, and using reactive framework we are going to see how we can process these quote information, the stock quote information asynchronously. So there is a API from the finance codes fnapi.com. So there is a API available for us. It's a jar dependency, so I'm going to add that particular jar dependency. So this is the URL. Okay, so I'm just adding that particular dependency so that we can use the Yahoo Finance API and directly get the quote information of a particular stock, so that we can use get the price and other information, and we can string that. So what is the latest version? 3.6.1. So I'm going to use the same version, 3.6.1. So our environment is ready. So we have the RxJava implementation added, and also the Yahoo Finance API we have added into our project. So we can directly get started. So I'm going to create a class called Reactive. Let's call it Reactor resource for now. Okay. Let me write it as a REST endpoint, or I can even write it as a normal class. So I'm going to, let for simplicity, I'm just going to create a main class. So here what we are going to do is we are going to use the Rx implementation, RxJava implementation. So what we are going to do is we are going to create an observable pattern. So I'm going to say get code. Okay, I need the stock code information. Right, so this, I'll just create a new to resource get stock. So what I need is a observable. So observable from the Rx. If you see, this is the class. Observable is a class, and what we are going to get is something from the stock service. So let me create a service. Let's say I'll create a stock service. Okay, from there I'm going to do a get stock. Okay, let me create this class. I created this class called stock service. So in that I need to have a method called get stock. So I've return observable, and here what we have to return is a stock. If you see here, the stock is a model inside Yahoo Finance. I'm just going to return the stock. So how am I going to query the stock information? Is if you see this particular API, they have given that information as well. So if you see here, I can query by this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same code. So I'm just going to use Yahoo Finance.get of, let's say we want to get the stock for Google. Okay, and this is going to return a exception for us. So let's say we are just going to use a system of println and then the exception. Okay, how does this observable API work? So we have to create a, so here what we are doing is we using the stock service, we are just creating the, we are just getting the stock information. However, what we need to return is an observable stream. However, we are not returning that here. So we have to create an observable stream for the stock, because that is what we are going to return back, right? So I'm just going to say dot create. Okay, so I'm going to say observable dot create, for the stock information. It's expecting a lambda, so I'm just going to say subscribe. Okay, and if you see, this will return a stock. Let me go inside. So what do we need here? Why is this complaint? Okay, that's fine. So what we have to do is we have to give the stock information inside the observable.create. Okay, and I'm going to say stock from subscriber. So subscriber is the object which we are getting here. So I'm going to check if the subscriber has been subscribed, or else I will not do a query. So I'm going to say why this is not, it's not able to identify. Let me check why is this IntelliJ not able to identify. I'm not sure. Let's check it out once. I write a new function so that I'm going to say go inside this. Let's go inside this guy. Okay, control. Control that one. So here we have a create. Where is a create? Okay. So inside the create, we have to have a observable on observable function. So why is this not getting created? I'm not sure. Let's do. No, it doesn't stay. It still shows error. I'm doing something wrong here. So let's check what is wrong. I'm doing the create correctly, but let me meanwhile open the project which I had already done. Meanwhile, let me check if anybody has any questions or something. No, just refresh this just to be sure. Okay. I did the correct thing, but I think we don't have to write. So let me. We don't have to do this. That's the problem. Okay. Now it seems to be fine. So we were using the wrong method. This is deprecated. That's what they say. However, we are going to use the other function, which is this guy. So that should get resolved automatically. But let's write this guy. So I'm going to check if it is if the subscribe. Why is this still? Let's write it again. So observable.create. Okay. I'm going to write refresh here. So I'm going to say subscriber.is unsubscribed. So I'm going to check if it is unsubscribed or not. If the subscriber is not subscribed, then don't do the stream. So what I have done here is I'm just checking if the subscriber is subscribed or not. So if the subscriber is subscribed, then only I'm going to get our stock information. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to remove this piece of code which is not required now. So this is what we need to return. right? Okay, so I'm just checking whether we are subscribed or not, and I'm going to get the stock information from the Yahoo Finance, and also how do we send this particular message back to the caller, right? So it's all asynchronous data stream. So the caller will have to just do a subscribe here. So for example, I'll just store this as a stock code. I've created an observable for the stock code. I need to just subscribe. So once I subscribe, that's when all the asynchronous messages are going to get pushed back. So once I subscribe, I have to have three functions, three arguments basically. Sorry. So I have three arguments. So there will be you have lots of methods with different arguments, but I'll have three arguments. The first one is going to say first one is going to be the callback. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say callback. Okay. The second one is going to be the on error. So whenever there is an error, you get this particular callback call, and the last one will be the on completed. So basically, all these are like callback methods which will be called whenever there is a problem or something. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to create the callback. So once we get the callback, we are going to get the stock information basically. So what we will have here is the stock. We are going to call the stock information. Okay. And this is going to be stock. Why it says lambda parameter cannot be applied. So let me go and write this guy first. New action one. Then we can convert into a lambda. So I think we can have these. Let's select the function which is the third subscribe. So so which one has three subscriptions? This has three. Yes, this is the one which we have to do. So what I'm going to do here is this. I think this is the reason why we did not get. Now we should be able to use lambda itself. So I'm going to say stock of callback of stock. Okay. I can replace this with method reference. So then for this is the first successful callback. So whenever there is a message, it is going to come here. So next, what we need is the error, right? So we will have to. So whenever we get the error, so error, we will have a throwable. What we will do is we will have a throwable, and we are going to call the function, let's say on error, or even error callback. We can just say error callback for our reference. So what this is going to do is this is going to give the exception which we got. So I'm going to create this particular method as well so that we can just log it also. Okay, I'm just log this guy. This method should be created outside. We'll just create it outside. Okay, so this is going to be okay. So this is the first argument is the callback for the implementation. What we need to do. The second one is the callback for the error handling, and the last one will be for the completion. So I'm going to say just create a function for complete callback. Okay. I don't need to, so I'm going to just create this method. So here I need to pass the stock. In fact, it will be empty, I guess. I'm just going to say completed successfully. In the callback, in the original callback, what we are going to do here is we need to do some action on this particular stock, right? I'm going to return something. Return null for now. Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do stock dot get code. So I'm going to just print the stock information which we received. So I'm going to say system dot println and I'll just create some string format stock code. So what is the code? And I will just print the code. Then I'll just print the price of the code. I'll just print the days high and also the days low. Okay. So this should be available for us from the stock. So stock.get code will give the code. Then we need the price, right? Stock.get get code dot price. Okay, actually here we should use the symbol. For the code it should print the symbol. Next stock.get code. We need the previous days. Sorry, we need the days high, right? So this is the days high and I need the days low as well. So stock.get code dot get low. Okay, so this is going to give me the information for the symbol, the price, the that particular day is high, and the low information when did it went high and what was the price which was high and low. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So basically what we are doing here is we are just printing the stock information which we got as a callback. Okay, that's it. So here what we need to do is we need to put the stock. Okay, so this particular class is done. So this is where we are calling the observable pattern. So here what we have done is we are just calling the service. We are just calling the stock service and then we are just getting the stock. Okay, I'm just getting the stock information. So once it is received, once the observable handle is received, I'm going to subscribe to that particular observable handle and I'm going to register some callback methods so that once we get the messages back, it will be calling the callback methods. Now from the service, we have to make sure these callbacks are properly called. So what we are doing in the service is we are creating an observable pattern. We are just creating a pattern with the subscriber and we are checking if the subscriber is subscribed or not. Once the subscriber is subscribed, I'm just using the Yahoo Finance API to get the stock information of Google. Okay, once I get the stock information, I need to send this back, right? So how will I send this back to the callback is I need to call the subscriber dot on next and I need to pass the stock information. So once I do this, the stock information will be directly retrieved to this particular callback method. So and we are going to get the output printed. Okay, once the callback is completed, once all the processing is completed, we are going to say on completed method. So this is going to trigger the complete callback. So that is going to just print our completed successfully message. And if let's say there is an error message, so what we are going to do is here we have an exception, right? So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say subscriber.on error. Okay, and I'm going to pass that particular exception directly. So once I pass it, that exception will be received here and that will be printed here. Okay, for now what we are going to do is we are going to get only the, if you see here, this is not a stream as such, but this is just a single asynchronous message which we are getting from the service and we are going to print it in the resource here. So for to subscribe okay, I'll put a log after the same. Processing completed. Okay, let me start this particular code. So what we're doing is just a single message we are getting from the Yahoo Finance API. So it is basically a stock information about Google. We are just getting that and we are going to just print it. But the only thing is we are using the reactive observable design pattern to do that. So if you see here, it's completed actually because there is only one message and it is immediately got completed. So what we did is we added the log called going to subscribe. We subscribed. So once it got subscribed, we received the stock information and this particular log is coming from the callback here. So for, let's say, I'll add a message saying callback colon colon, so that we know that where is this coming from. Okay, and same way here we will say complete. Okay. And here as well I'm going to just say callback. Okay, so here we have a callback, we have the complete callback. Okay, done. So let me rerun this. Okay, so first we subscribed. Once we subscribed, the Yahoo Finance API got called from the service. Okay, that is what we did here. I think I can add some log here so that we can easily see that as well here. Okay, so I've added that log, but it should have got printed here. So if you see, these two logs are coming from the API itself. It is just doing a REST API call for this particular URL, and then it is getting the stock information, and it is just printing the whole JSON or CSV message which it received. And if you see here, this is the callback which we received. So the callback says, this is the callback. We got the quote information. We got the current price of Google now. So it is 909. That today's high was 916.85 and today's low was 907. That is what you see here. And finally, once we completed this particular stream processing, actually there is only one data in this particular stream, so it got completed, and we called the complete data and we received the completed successfully message. And finally, we completed our processing. So if you see here, this particular subscribe method was literally just waiting for the processing to be completed, right? If there is an exception or a completion message, the stream will be terminated. So basically the stream will be terminated when there is an error callback or the complete callback. So once it is done, that's when the control moves from this particular line to this line. So literally the Java compiler waits here at the runtime. The Java runtime environment waits here until the completion is done. Okay, that is what has happened here. So let me make this a little bit complex. So here we are just querying for Google stock, right? So let's say we want to query for Apple also. Okay, Apple stock code and the Google stock code. So what I have done is I have just created a string here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stream this. Okay, I'm going to stream this particular stock. So every stock will be received. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use each stock name or the code basically. So this is a code, right? So let me rename this guy. These are codes, right? So I'm getting each code and I'm going to do a Yahoo Finance get of that particular code, right? So the only thing which is pending here is we have to do a surround with try catch. Okay, and here once we received this particular stock, what did we return? It's a stock. So once we receive the stock, I'm just going to say for each, and inside that we have the stock information now. So stock info. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say subscriber dot on next of stock. So basically I'm not doing anything different. I'm just converting this particular whatever implementation which we did here into a stream. So since we had the array stream here, so what I did is we had a variable name, we maintained state and all, right? So we here what we're doing is we're not doing anything. We're just using the Java 8 streams to do some stream processing. Okay. So why is this return error? Missing return. So I'm just going to say null. Okay. And if there is a null, let's say filter stock info impact stock info not equal to none. We do a control. Okay. What we are doing here is I'll just replace this with number. Same way here I can do this. Okay. So what I have done here is I'll just enclose this particular function. I'll just extract this into a method. So I'm just saying just get stock. Okay, I just incorporated that into a method so that this will be neat for us. Do the method reference. So yeah, so what are we doing here? So I'm just streaming over the quote information. So for every quote, I'm just going to get the stock information. Okay, I'm just mapping literally. So I'm just getting the stock information, and what we get here will be a stock. And I'm checking if the stock is not null, then only I'm just calling the subscriber.all next. Okay. So once this is completed, just printing the retrieved. I think we can give that inside the get information. So we had the get stock, right? So there I can put what stock are we going to retrieve here. So I'm just going to print that information here. Info for food. So okay. So this is just going to print the log saying retrieve stock info for that particular code. Okay, once it is retrieved, we'll get it, and then okay, so there is no error callback here right now, but I'll just do this particular stream. So this is the typical example of how you do reactive programming. So reactive versus functional. So if you see here, this is functional style of implementation. So if you're familiar with Java 8 streams, this is how we stream or we iterate through a particular stream or basically a collection. So what we do in the imperative style is completely different, and what we do here is a functional style. So if you see here, I can easily read it. I'm getting the codes, I'm mapping that to get stock, and then finally I'm filtering the not null values, and then finally I'm calling the subscriber.on next for every stock. Okay, so let's run this particular code. There is no sleep here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sleep for some time so that we can see how the asynchronous programming works, right? So what I'll do here, I'll just do sleep inside some method. So where can I do a sleep? So I'll do the sleep after this on next is called. It might look shabby, but let's change this guy, right? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this guy, call next. Okay, then what I'm going to do, next stop. Next I'm going to do is sleep for let's say I'm going to sleep for 2 seconds. Okay, so I'll create a method called sleep. So what I will do is I'll do a thread dot sleep for that particular thing. I'll add a try catch block. So this particular information is separate. So what we are doing here is when after we finished calling the on next, we are doing a sleep so that the next iteration takes a while, and we can see how the asynchronous programming works. Okay, so let's start this guy. Okay, so we are going to do going to subscribe. We have subscribed, and initially, if you see, the service retrieved the stock information for Apple, and immediately returned something. So I think Apple's code name is wrong. I think it is AAPL. So let's run this again. Actually, I could have added a log here. Okay. Yeah. So if you see here, we received the callback for the Apple code, and the price for today's Apple code is 143.94, and today's high was this and low was this. And after some time we again got the service call for Google, then again we had it. So if you see here, these are literally the callbacks, and once all these callbacks are completed, we are calling the on completed, and that is why the completed callback has got after we finished processing the messages in the stream. And then finally, once the messages are completed, we are just saying completed processing, right? That is there here. Okay, so let's add some more stock. Right, so I don't know much of the code name for the stock. There were some examples here in this particular website, so we can add those stock itself. So for example, they have added so many, so I'll add these stocks. Okay, so that we will have lots of information to stream, and also I'll increase this to 3 seconds. Also I have added a log statement. Okay, so let's run this. So we'll be able to see all these stock information getting streamed. So if you see here, first we got Apple. Yeah, we got the Apple information. We got the callback. Now it was sleeping. I should have added the sleep before, actually. So once we got Google, we got INTC. Now we got Baba. So we are getting the stock information one by one. So this is the stream. So if you see here, these are asynchronous callback messages which are coming from the service to the main class. So basically, you are not doing anything here. We just subscribed, and then we had registered the callbacks to this particular service, and we are getting the messages pushed into the callback, and those are getting printed here successfully. Okay. So meanwhile, I'll just okay, I'll just move the log here. So now we saw successful messages. Let's see some failure messages, right? So what I will do is I'll throw some exception here, or what I'll do, I'll just mandatorily by default I'll throw some. Um, how do I throw? Can do throw here. New exception. Okay. So this is going to complain me. So how will I throw? I'll just say quote equal to. If quote is equivalent to Google, I'm going to throw an exception. Okay. That is what I'm going doing here, and what we need to do is here is we need to call the on error with the exception, right? So we need to add the subscriber here. Basically, the code is required here, and I'm just going to say get stock of the code, comma the subscriber. Okay. So what we have done here is we have got the subscriber. I didn't add. So why is the subscriber is already defined in the scope? Yeah, we need to use this guy. We are just passing it, right? So why is it even complying? Code is already defined in scope. Okay, it has changed in this particular guys. Okay, let me do a control Z. Just because this particular method is also sketch stock, so that's why it has changed to this particular method signature. So let me go here, remove this, and now it should change for the. It's not changing the other one, but it is changing itself. So let me remove this and I'll put it here. Okay, so we have got the subscriber, and I'm just using the subscriber to do a on error. So what we are basically doing here is we are just calling a callback. If there is an exception, we are just calling a callback to that particular on error. Okay, so that the caller will know that okay, there is an exception, and it will be reached to the error callback. So that is how we handle exception. So basically the service will tell you if there is an exception. So you don't have to basically handle exceptions in the client part. Instead, you will have a different callback. There you can handle the exception. So let me run this. So we'll see now when the Google stock is hit, it will be throwing an exception. And another thing is once we receive an exception, the processing will be like can be terminated. The processing can be terminated, or you can still proceed with the processing. Okay, so that we should be able to identify. So if you see here, what happened was Google came, and if you see here, the service hit Google and we had an error callback. And what happened was we called the error callback directly, and the message which is inside the error callback got printed java. And we just said, hey, that's it. Okay, so that is the error callback mechanism. And once it finished the processing, we got the completed message, processing completed, right? If you notice here, the callbacks for the other retrieve stock did not even get called. These callbacks, they never got called because the on error terminated this particular uh, subscriber stream. Okay, whatever we created here, it basically terminated, but however still we, since we had the array stream kept on going, so it was still iterating it, but it was never having the subscriber, so it was never calling it. So internally, RxJava uses histories so to handle fallbacks. Okay, so if you see here, since we called the on error, nothing happened, so we just got the callback, but nothing literally happened. So instead what we can do is we can even do a throw of that exception. So if we throw that exception, I don't think we can throw unhandled exception. What is this going to say? Unreachable statement. Oh god. So let's see what happened, why we can't proceed to the. Mhm. 1 minute, let me check my demo program. Where is the demo program? Where is the demo program? Oh, it's hiding here. So how did I handle error is, since we were in the same map, I think we directly used this on error itself. Okay, let's check why. Let me minimize this guy. It should have worked. I don't know why it didn't work. Mhm. Since it is the inside the method, I don't know why it should create a differentiation between the sub method call. So if you see here, what I had done is I had done next and then sleep the same thing. Same way, I was using the subscriber.on error, but basically it terminated the function. It did not proceed further, but that's not happening in our case. I don't know why. In the callback I just printed, in the completed I just so let's run this right as well. Okay, I think I was doing the exception callback after the next, so let's try that, right? So we can try that. Instead of calling the exception here, throwing the exception here, what I'll do is I'll just call the subscriber dot. It will just be the same thing, but let me call it here in this particular case. Let's say subscriber dot on next on error of error. Okay, so what we are doing here is I'm just throwing an exception. What is this guy expecting? Okay, just expecting the throwable in itself. So it doesn't need any lambda or anything. I'll just throw a new exception. And that should suffice for this guy. New runtime exception of this, and why is it not cribbing? Okay, there is an extra. Okay, so now it's all good. Let's see. Now what we are doing here is I'm throwing the exception here on the first try itself. Let's see if it is still proceeding. Let's do that. Check. So after the sleep of 3 seconds after the Apple stock, so now it's sleeping, right? So now it should throw an exception. Let's see what happens. So yeah, it threw an exception, and still it is proceeding further. Maybe I don't know why it proceeds further, but looks like that is how it works. But basically, you got the concept, right? So the callback will be called when there is an on error. So and that callback will be specific to the error callback, and you can handle some things here. So you can even do a fallback or do whatever you want in the error case. So that is how streams work. So this is how we do reactive programming. So if you see here, I'll just reiterate what we did. So we created an observable pattern and we registered an object called stock, and that is what we were expecting from the get stock code. And that method internally uses a service to get the stock information, and that service internally created an observable stream. So basically, we created an observable stream, okay, and for the subscriber, we were checking whether the subscriber is subscribed or not. Once the subscriber is subscribed, we are iterating through the codes. We are basically doing a stream of the codes, and we are iterating and getting every code, and we are going to the Yahoo Finance API and getting the stock information for every code, and we are doing some manipulation here. Once we got the code information, we are calling the on next. Once the on next is called, we receive the callback here. We receive the callback here and we print it out. And if there is an exception, we can call the on error. Once on error is called, we will get that in the on error. Once all the stream processing is completed, we will get the callback message in the completed callback. Once all this particular processing is completed, or the terminate command is called internally by the reactive streams, then only this particular information will be printed. So basically, the execution engine will be waiting here until all the callbacks are done, and then the processing is completed, and then it moves further. Okay, so that is what reactive programming is all about. So if you see here, how this works is from the caller, I'm not getting the response here, and then I'm not processing anything there. Instead, I'm just relying on an external service, which is nothing but a stock service. Imagine the stock service is an external service, and it is giving some information. So we have mocked that part using the Yahoo Finance API, right? So this Yahoo Finance API is literally getting the information from the current stock information, and we are just iterating and getting that information back to the callback, asynchronous callback, and we are printing it here. Okay, so this is how we implement reactive programming using this RxJS framework. There are lots of other methods. You can do lots of fallback. You can do lots of logic here, lots of transformation and stuff using functional programming. So if you see here, I'm using functional programming here to do that. You can add functional programming along with reactive programming to do all those information, and to the client you can just give the message in the callback directly, so you don't have to do anything in the client side. So the service will have to do all this heavy lifting, and then we have to just give back the model or the message back to the reactive client, which called the service. So this is how we do reactive programming, and this is what Netflix uses internally for reactive programming. So I felt this API was easier, and I thought it's a more powerful API because many Netflix has created it, and many people have already started using it, and I felt it will be filled with less bugs. That is why I used RxJava, and it is also famous. If you see the documentation, what they claim is they have done this for Groovy, Clojure, JRuby, Kotlin, and Scala. So that is why I started using this particular library. Um, if you feel free to comment if you have any questions or something. If you feel the video was good, give a thumbs up. If you want to follow my channel, do a subscribe. You'll be getting lots of live coding sessions, and I'll be doing lots of hands-on, so that you will get an understanding of how to do programming on the latest concepts or something. Okay, that's it for this particular session. Meet you again in the next session. Thank you very much.